Welcome to my art channel. I am so glad to see you here today. It is Wednesday. It's really cold, like really cold. It's about -10, which is very cold for us, even us Canadians. It's supposed to be April. Spring is supposed to be here, but it's not. So we are gonna hunker down in our studio again and do some art. I'm thrilled that you joined me today. Welcome, welcome. I hope things are going okay in your world. Some of us may be feeling a little isolated, so I'm thrilled that you guys join me every day to do art that really warms my heart and makes me super happy. So what are some of the hobbies that you guys are doing now? A lot of us are sewing. I do not sew. A lot of us are cooking. I do not cook. I used to cook. I don't anymore. I can make really good asparagus, but that's about the extent of my cooking. I hope you guys are a better cook than me. So maybe you guys picked up a new hobby. Maybe you've taken a lot of walks. I know it'd be nice when it's finally spring weather. You can go out more and do some walking. I know I love to walk. Some of you may have started a musical instrument. Maybe you decided to play the guitar. I actually cleaned out one of my areas over in my storage area, and I found my old guitar. I used to want to learn how to play the guitar. It's pretty dusty, so I just kind of looked at it and then I put it back. I don't play any musical instruments. Maybe you do. I know some of you play piano. Some of you play maybe a flute. I do not do any of that. All I do is art, which is awesome for me. I love art. So welcome, welcome. I'm going to give you a list of things we are going to do today, that we're going to need today. If you remember, I said gesso, or white paint will do. We need a container for that gesso. So again, I used cheap Ukrainian artiste here. I used a container of some olives. They were delicious. Now it's empty, so I saved the container because it's a nice container to reuse. And I'm actually going to use my palette knife, or if you had a fork, a plastic fork, or you could use a regular fork and just wash it after, but something that you can apply the gesso with. Pencil. This is HB, it's just blue. So a pencil, so just a regular yellow pencil will do, and something rigid. So I'm reusing my eye from another video. Still good. So if you had one of these that you didn't like the outcome, like so, I liked it, but I'm going to reuse it. I'm actually going to use the back. So I'm going to use the back surface. If you actually had like a hard cardboard like I used a few videos back, you could use that too. Just something rigid. If you only have paper, that'll work too. It's just if you had like a lid of a cardboard box or something, that would work totally dandy. So run along, go grab those materials, and I will see you back in 2 minutes. So while you're grabbing those things, I have a couple things to share with you. So from the Lorraine's wacky archive of things she has around her studio, I want to show this to you. So first off, because you know I like eyes, hence eye art all the time. I did this eye. I want to show this for you. Oops. One little D-league flew off. So this is, if you look really closely, I'm gonna show you. It's like dun dun dun. So this is an eye I did. So if you don't know, if you stand back, you can see. Ooh, ooh, it's an eye. And what I did was I bought a whole bunch of different beads. Oh, I just dropped it. 1 sec. Oh my God. First ever on this show. Okay, so I brought a whole bunch of beads, and what I did was I kind of color coordinated what I did. I drew it out first, and then what I did was I glued, using a lot of glue, I glued my colors together, and kind of like a mosaic, right? So you know a mosaic is like pieces that are all together, different colors. You make them all together and make like a one image thing. So this is what I did. It's pretty jazzy. So I used a lot of glue, like and it was white glue. So just a bit of inspiration for you, for if you want, if you had some little beads hanging around, you could use that. Oops, my microphone. Everything's oh my God, everything's coming apart here. my art's falling apart, everything's falling apart. So if you had some beads laying around, you could use that for a image, kind of like create a mosaic. I don't want to show you how to do that here because you would need a lot of material, and I just thought if it was something you had laying around, like maybe some old buttons, you could arrange them in a mosaic and do like a layered mosaic like that. So something for you to think about. Now, another thing I wanted to share with you in my menagerie of wonderfulness is I found this little lady. So while I was cleaning, so the year on this is 1964. And this was from, I'm trying to read the back here. So it looks like it was from an old, so if you look at the back, you see the back here, it's on an old canvas panel, 1964. And it actually looks like it was from a different country. Interesting. And then it was framed in Montreal. See that? So I was kind of being a little investigative reporter here. So what I loved about her, I actually found her, if I remember correctly, this was about 10 years ago. I found her in an antique store. And I just bought her because if you look at my place, I love weird portraits of people that I don't know who they are. I have no clue who this woman is. I have no clue. But what I love about her is just the way it's painted, and look at that. And the old frame, it just makes a really awesome, cool piece to have. So I wanted to share that with you. So if maybe if you're at a thrift store, or maybe if you are just looking around garage sales are going to be starting soon. I love garage sales. Maybe you'll find some cool finds like this puppy. Okay, so that was about 2 minutes, probably a bit longer because I had an accident dropping things. Anyway, welcome back. So we're going to get started. So over here is my piece I'm going to reuse. So remember, today's our drawing day. Today's Wednesday, our drawing day, and we're going to draw. So I'm going to grab my container here, and I'm going to put some gesso in a container. Now the idea here, what we're going to do is create a rough background. So some of you may have liked this project before. I've done it with you. Some of my students are tuning in since our classes are over. Hi guys, thanks for joining me. So this is one of my favorite projects. So as you can see, gesso is kind of thick, kind of runny. What gesso is used for is to prepare the background of our canvas. So whether you're using like a canvas panel or maybe a piece of wood, or maybe something that's a little more organic, maybe you want to paint on something and you need to protect the surface. What gesso does is it creates like a protective barrier from the paint versus the material that it sits on. Otherwise it'll break it down. So this just protects the area. We're going to use it today, not so much to protect the area, but to create a neat little textural background. So that's why I said if you do not have gesso, you can use white paint and it'll be the same. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scoop it up, and I'm gonna use the back. Remember I said you could use a piece of cardboard. And what I'm gonna do is, if you can see, so the idea here is to create a rough background. So this is something you will have to do now, okay, and then let it dry, and then go back and do the second step to this. Okay, so that's why I said you could use a fork, because what would be really cool is if you had a fork and you drew like some rough background scratches in there. So see how I'm just drawing some pattern in there, maybe some crazy shapes, maybe random waves. So I leave it thick like this. If you can see, it's kind of thick, but it's mostly getting that texture down, right? So what we want to do is cover our whole surface that we want to create the art in with this texture. So again, you can just pour it in. I'm just going to set it here. So just scoop a bunch in. I'm just going to pour it on. Woo! And whatever you drop down, kind of like the other, the white glue that we used before, if you drop it down and you leave it like that, you see that big blob? that's going to dry just like that. It might take a while. You could take a blow dryer to it. Just be careful you don't blow dry this stuff over onto your couch or something. But just create those little patterns and then let it dry. So let it dry. Say goodbye, goodbye, texture, and then let it dry. Then I'm going to show you the next step here. Because this has to dry, I'm not going to work on this. So I have a next step. So this would be the final step. So what I did here was I drew this lady. So you're like, oh my God, Lorraine, I can't draw that. Yes, you can. And remember I said yesterday, if you had some Q-tips, you could use the Q-tip to blend in these little areas. I could have made these darker with Q-tip, got right in those creases if you want to look really close. But all I did was I just used the edge of my pencil and then just shaded. So again, you want to map out your area. Let's say you just wanted to do a simple eye. So I'll show you on, one sec. I'll show you on this here. One second. Okay, so if you had just a simple eye, again, I'm showing you the eye just because it's quick to draw. Okay, so here's my simple eye. Say this is on the textural background, okay? So once you're using it, once you're drawing, so here's my simple eye, you can shade with the side of your pencil, okay? And either with your finger to get in those grooves, you'll see the texture popping out in those grooves, but with the side of your pencil, and that's all I used for this lady, right? The shading with your finger or the Q-tip if you wanted to get into those areas here. So I just use the side of my pencil, and you can do it really light, super lightly, or go back and then go back in with some heavy pencil. So like over here, right in this area, I might want it a bit darker. So I'm just pressing super dark, and then you would get in all those little grooves with the texture that you created. You see the little difference there? And then you could blend with your finger too, or the Q-tip, get in there. So basically what we want to do is we want to create that texture. So this texture I did actually with just like I got it flat, and then with scritchy scratchies with a brush, actually an old dried up brush. I made some messy texture, and then we did the pencil over top. So that's all that is. Now, another one I did was an air pilot. So you can see that. So again, just light here and then dark in here. Some different, I'm gonna back up here. So you can see this is a lot different than my other work that I do, but it lets you see things. It lets you observe. Remember when I said being a good artist is being very observant? And that's all it is. Just observing, taking your time. Don't rush. Draw really lightly and then go back in. But first we need to create that textured background. So if you leave bumps and lumps like that, you might find it a bit harder if you want to do just abstract. But what I did for these guys, the ones that I showed you here, is I created a nice flat texture with an old brush. You could use something like a sponge maybe. That would be fun. Or anything you find around the house to make texture. So that's what we're doing today, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you're beginning to look at life a little differently with these videos. Before we go, I wanted to share with you, first off, what we're going to do tomorrow. So we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. So tomorrow, Thursday. Hey, y'all. Thursday. So we're going to need some foam. So that can either be a foam plate or maybe if you had some packing, meat packing trays, maybe I'll use one of those tomorrow as well. So any of those kind of things. Paper, either a popsicle stick or a wooden stick. Maybe you have some craft sticks around. And tempera paint and a paintbrush. So foam, tempera paints, paper, wooden stick, and paintbrush. All right. So that's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. But first, before you go, I have one more thing I want to share with you. So you guys know how I love birds. Well, this little dealie I wanted to share with you. So this one's called the Seeker, and he is one of my favorite birds. So I actually painted him last year for a theater production. So what that means is someone hired me to paint imagery for their play, basically to use on advertising. So it was a really awesome story about kind of like a journey of enlightenment. And so what I did was I listened to basically what the story was all about. And then I came up with a sketch. They said, made a couple of changes. And they said, go to town, Lorraine. So I did. And this was the final. So then I scanned him in and I used him in the design. So I hope you like him. He's one of my favorites. And it's actually shows you problem solving. Because a crow or a raven are naturally black, right? Well, I never use black in my art. So, and it was going to be in a night sky. So it's like, okay, how do I make a raven in the night sky? You wouldn't really see that, would you? So I made him a blue color. And then I made the sky like a dark blue color. So it kind of shows you how, again, art is your own universe. You can do whatever you like and just have fun. And that's what I do. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for coming today. I love hearing the feedback. I love seeing all your art. I get these random little art sent to me from everyone that when they follow my video and they do the art, and then I get to see how I've inspired them, which is just the whole reason for these videos. So thank you again. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you mañana. Bye-bye.